As a little girl, I've always been inspired by music. There was just something about it that enticed me. The way the chords rang, the way the melody sat with the chords when I listened to a song. And I soon realized that it's something that I want to do. And as a young child, I was brave enough to allow myself to do that. I started playing at the age of about 8 or 9. I was doing recorder back then. And naturally, about a year or two, I wanted to do more. Whenever my teacher would give me my lead sheet or my music sheet, there was a melody, but then there was an accompaniment part that she would always play. And I wondered to myself, I'm pretty sure I could do this as well. I don't just want to be playing one line all the time. Sure enough, I went to her and I asked her about this. I soon learned that you either have to be a pianist or just continue playing one line. And so, with my brave little heart, I started playing piano. My mother managed to find a little keyboard for me, and I started jamming on it with no education at all. Of course, I didn't know what I was reading, but I knew that I wanted a sound, a specific sound, and I always followed it. Sure enough, at the age of about 10 or 11, grade 5 at school, I told my parents, you know what? I want to learn piano as an instrument. I want to stop this recorder. Stop the recorder. Because I wasn't feeling it. And they allowed me to do piano at grade 6. I started to take off, and I really started to take off actually. I remember my report card, my music report card, the 1 year. After having done piano for about a year and a half, my teacher had written on the report card, Tembelihle is really motivated and really good at what she does. And whenever she comes to her lesson, she almost always already knows all her songs because she learned them by herself. And I suppose I was a pleasure to teach because of that. I took initiative because I was moved by music. I didn't really need a teacher to tell me to learn or to practice. I started progressing. By my first year of piano, I was playing grade 3 music level, grade 4. By the end of grade 7, I was starting grade 4, 5 music level. This, of course, was classical music, and it was really good for me because it was the perfect balance of challenge and love for something. It challenged me, but I really loved it. And man, I chowed those pieces up. I ate them up for breakfast. I ate them up for lunch. And sometimes for supper. And by the time I was in grade 9, 10, and 11, I was playing really big classical pieces. Playing internally at school. Externally, I Stedfords. Entered international exams, and I did pretty well. And my love for music just continued to grow each and every day. Around grade 11, I started to play in the jazz band at school. And I realized that this kind of music I really enjoyed. Of course, growing up, my father is a jazz fanatic and he himself plays guitar. So that sound was already embedded in me. But when I started playing jazz band in grade 11 and 12, man, it really stirred something up in me. And I realized that I can become more than just a concert pianist. Around grade 12, I was really, really taking off as a pianist. And so much so that at high school, they asked me to do a second instrument because I guess I was handling my first instrument pretty well. And I auditioned and I got to play trumpet. Suffice to say, right now, that I was not in love with, but I did do it relatively okay. I played trumpet, second trumpet in the jazz band for a while. And when the pianist left at the end of that year, I became the pianist for the jazz band at school. This, of course, was a huge privilege and honor for me because, man, that's just the one thing that I do. And of course, at that time, we were reading the music. I did not know what a chord is without seeing it on a page. But, man, just playing in that band. For the first time, we played outside of school. We played at a jazz festival as a band. We went to Eisteddfods as a band. We won as a band. And the music was skyrocketing. And I'm explaining it this way because I'm trying to put you in the mind frame that I was at. It felt like I could really just take off with music, and I felt so inspired. Matric, I auditioned to go into Varsity. I got in for jazz. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that the sound was familiar to me and I could definitely imitate it well. I got into Varsity. When I got to Varsity, I realized that I had a lot of work that I had to do. I realized that my classical training was nothing compared to the jazz that I still needed to learn. And it put me off, it threw me off. But being the courageous musician that I had always been from a very young age, I knew that I could take it on. And so I practiced each and every day. But the more I practiced, the more I realized I had to practice. And the more I practiced, the more I realized I couldn't really play. In this new context, at least. In my second year, I was still feeling like, this is really the worst. For me, I was really, really struggling at Varsity. I didn't know how other people did it. And a lot of other people had an advantage because some of them perhaps weren't coming from my classical background. And so they had a little bit of a taste of, what the meaning of a chord is and so forth. Nonetheless, toward the end of my first year, beginning of my second year, actually at the end of my first year it was, I thought, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit piano at least. And I told myself I can't do this anymore because I was really struggling. Like, you don't understand. And I then thought, yeah, you know what? Because the music in me can never die, let me actually just audition for vocals. I think that might be easier. Being naive, of course. Now I know how intense vocals are. I thought, let me just, because everyone sings, audition for vocals. That year, I didn't get in. I auditioned. It was the same department that I was doing piano in. So I knew, and I was already actually singing in the jazz choir at Varsity. So the person who was auditioning me knew me, but I didn't get in. And looking back, that was actually a good thing. That was my advantage, being a piano player. And after that, I thought, stop sulking. Why am I sulking? There's no need to be putting myself down like this, and I shouldn't be comparing myself like this. I pushed. I worked hard. I practiced almost every single day. I was practice, and practice was me. Every single day. My fire for music started to be fueled up again. I started to transcribe a pianist whom I found through some of my peers who I really enjoyed, and I felt like he spoke a lot to me in terms of how he interpreted jazz, because I felt as though I couldn't really relate to the jazz that I was hearing, because I'm not American, I'm African. And sometimes when I listen to jazz, it doesn't really resonate with me on such a deep level. The kind of jazz that I listened to growing up was, it was music that had a feel, like music that was played in the township. And when I listened to this guy play piano, I listened to this McCoy Tyner. I was like, man, this is some African stuff. And it really resonated with me for that reason. And it inspired me, and it allowed me to be. That's actually really important. It allowed me to be my African self in a very, I wouldn't even say Americanized setting, because jazz is American, African American, but in a very whitewashed setting. This person that I had found, this musician, this giant I had found, allowed me to be. After transcribing, listening, imitating him, I really was starting to find my vigor again for music, and I was starting to find my place again. Toward the end of my third, fourth year, I was able to play at a jam session and actually play till the end without getting lost. I started picking up gigs. I was getting called for gigs. And things started coming together for me again. And through my tough musical journey, I realized that as a young artist, there are a lot of things that we go through, and I wanted to be there for someone. And that's where my spark for teaching and mentorship started. Now I actually teach young musicians to follow their dreams, be there for them in their journeys. Show them that it's not that deep. It's really be yourself. Be yourself. And you are allowed to be in all your coloredness. You are allowed to be. And so I got booked sometimes. I started to play. Make my own music. Now I'm recording my own album. And I'm teaching, and I'm there for people. That mindset is almost, it's so diminished in my mind of feeling less than. And it has really just allowed me and freed myself. I found my path, and my path is not just as a performer, but it is as a teacher. It is as someone who inspires others. And it is as someone who leads the way for others. I've realized this, that not all of us can become super saiyans of jazz. Not all of us want that. And it is important to realize what your path is. And that is my path. And that has actually allowed me to have excitement for music again and really, really live my true purpose. I am so grateful for that vocal audition that I did not get into, because here I am having learned so much. It's so true when they say that everything happens for a reason. I'm so grateful. I am really happy. I am passionate. I am loved. I'm favored. There's lots of grace over my life. And for that, I thank God. I challenge you to find what your purpose is. I challenge you to get out of your misery. Get out of being stuck in whatever it is that you do. But speaking specifically to musicians, stop getting stuck. You don't have to do something specific. Find what works for you and let that lead you. I will leave you with a live quote by someone, Tete Mbembisa, a South African pianist who happened to be at one of my gigs. And after the gig, he said to me, whatever that sound is that you are hearing, follow it. And that has always stuck out with me. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do. And hey, it's been working out for me. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. See you again in my next video. Give me a like if you like this video. Bye.